Oh my god, Gabe, I feel great to be here. Welcome everybody to episode 5 of the Oddcast podcast. Today we have
I've been on a roll with posting. That's like
yeah, we have, dude, honestly.
This is gonna be our third in 3 days.
No, or fourth in 5 days.
Fourth in 5 days. Yeah.
That's a good ratio, honestly. Once we get that like you said, once we get monetized, that's like, we get the likes and everything, we're gonna be
consistent.
Cash.
We're consistent.
Yeah. Exactly,
first question to the viewers. Do you guys like the intro? We have the little intro thing at the beginning of each video. Should I switch it up? Sean's been suggesting a Minecraft intro.
A Minecraft 2010 intro?
But, I mean, it'd
be pretty funny. I think it'd be funny, dude. It'd be pretty cringe.
I like the one we have, but...
The one we have is... Okay, I'm gonna say this. The one we have is fire, but I think it'd be kind of funny if we had a Minecraft one, but the new one's been growing on me, dude. Anyways, everybody, we have Mr. Lobko today. Very thoughtful guy. He's just an awesome guy. I hope he joins so we don't have to cut in this intro.
That's true. Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is! Oh, we're connecting. Almost. Mr. Lobko Hackley, just in case you didn't know. There he is! There he is!
Hey, gents.
How you doing?
Mr. Lobko.
Doing well, thanks. Just setting up my virtual background.
Oh,
nice.
Where are we today?
Well, any guesses?
Not.
I'm trying to get into a guessing game with all my classes.
It looks
China?
like Asian architecture.
All right, we're close. What about, what's this?
I see that flag. Is that the Chinese flag?
Oh, that looks like the Chinese.
Close.
I don't know many
We're in Hanoi, Vietnam.
Vietnam.
Yeah, this is the Temple of Literature behind me. So this was the cast-in trip to Southeast Asia back in 2018. So yeah, just got the globe on the mind while we're in quarantine. How are you both today?
I'm doing fantastic. I had my final class today. God bless Mr. Richardson. I know I'm gonna miss her class, but it's just nice to be finally done. Granted, I still have an AP exam, but finally done.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I'm doing well. I've been following the tips that I picked up from Paterno and Lisa about just getting into a schedule, and I actually felt pretty productive this morning. I was looking at like summer classes my college is offering. Like they're all online, but I was thinking since my job got canceled this summer, I might as well take one of those.
Okay. Well, that's a solid way to round out the week for both of you. Nice.
Thank you.
Ask, are we recording the interview yet?
Oh yeah,
of course.
We're rolling.
We love recording the intro. We love you joining because it shows us getting hyped and you getting hyped too. That's like the highlight of the interview.
That's right.
So yeah, have you been? You've been doing all right, Mr. Lobko? You've been hanging out?
I wouldn't say I've just been hanging out, but I'm right. Thank you. I've been enjoying some of the theory essay commentary that's been keeping me real busy.
Mine included.
Yours included. More to come on that, and also just keeping busy with all the various initiatives and looking ahead to the summertime. The faculty is really thinking hard about what that looks like now, how we get as ready as we can be for the fall, to be prepared even though there's so much kind of uncertainty. So it's never boring, but I'm doing okay. Thanks for asking.
Of course.
And just to introduce you, Mr. Lobko, you're Hackley English teacher. You're Sean's current teacher for English, right? Correct?
I have the pleasure and privilege to be current English.
And you were my teacher this summer in the college essay course, which I'd highly recommend to any current juniors or underclassmen watching. Definitely helped me with my college essay. I don't think I would have written what I wrote without you.
Thanks for saying that. To work with you back then, that was a gas. That was a good time.
It was a good time, yeah.
I remember we had the bagel potluck and all kinds.
Oh, for sure. I
I liked
hearing other people's stories more than like getting feedback on my own. Those were it was definitely a good time.
It's such a fantastic class. I have taught it for a few years. I was actually planning to move away with it and do some other things with the summertime, but like, it's such a different kind of writing. It's a class that's so different because it just kind of fosters that kind of personal, confessional, reflective capacity that, you know, you don't always have in other modes of writing. And so, yeah, I resonate with what you're saying about how cool it was to hear other people's stories when they like get really real about things that have happened to them or that happened to them. So yeah, it was good. It was a good time.
I think that's one of the reasons too, Gabe and I love the podcast so much, because that's kind of what it's here for. You know, a lot of it is you know, us asking questions, but it's also about stories too. And speaking of stories, so you are the head of like international, I don't want to say affairs, but international trips for Hagley, correct?
Global education.
Yeah, exactly.
So the official title is the Alstrom Chair in Foreign Affairs. No. Endowed Chair. There are a couple of chairs that faculty are really privileged and honored with, and this is one of them. It has another name, which is Director of Global Education. And before me, it was Dr. Pierce for 8 years, and she did so much to expand our program. And before that, Mr. Klemenko was Alstrom Chair. I am a little hesitant to say that I'm alone the head of it. I work on a team really closely with Mr. Sternberg, and he's been the Round Square rep and exchange coordinator for the upper school. And Mr. Haslinger, Coach Haslinger, he's the middle school exchange coordinator. And then there's Mr. Baleka. And Mr. Baleka is kind of the chief head of our global education team. So I wear that big hat, but I could not do it without those other people.
For sure. Mr. Sternberg helped me a ton with organizing my exchange. Unfortunately, it couldn't happen, but he was still a big help to just making it all possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. He has helped to grow interest in and just connections between our school and other schools. At one meeting, in fact, before COVID arrived, we had a meeting for people interested in outgoing exchanges, and we only can send, you know, a small number, you know, 3 outbound, and 45 families showed up. So Mr. Sternberg, like, you know, really lit a fire amongst the Hagley community about how awesome it is, how transformative it is to go abroad, you know. And even in the time that we're in right now, we do still have those strong relationships with other schools, and once, you know, the world becomes a little safer, we can't wait to see some of those friends and colleagues at places like South Africa and Australia and Netherlands, Japan, all over the place.
Yeah, they really do create just incredibly unique and cool experiences. I know, personally speaking, for me, the Spain trip, which was last summer, was just incredible. I mean, I know Mr. Sternberg and you also both kind of put that together, and it was just an incredible trip. I could not say any more things. And if you are a student and you're watching this, try to get on a international trip, because I know that the trips that take place, you know, like, you know, in the States, those are cool, those are awesome, but it's just going to a different, just completely different country and experiencing completely different culture. It just means so much more, I feel. And it was also my second time out of the country in my life, basically. First time was when I was 4. I think we went to the Bahamas. Don't quite remember a lot of that, but this experience I had, I'm definitely not going to forget. So I just want to say, from me to you, Mr. Lobko, thank you for doing all that you do for it as well.
It's my pleasure to help with our program. Yeah, it's such important learning and experiences that we try to provide. So thanks for that.
For sure. I'm surprised like the application processes aren't even more competitive than they already are, just because like when I did my Round Square trip, I didn't know if I'd get selected because I think they gave priority to the older students. And I was super fortunate to be picked and had an absolutely amazing time meeting students from all over world in Toronto, and that was a great experience for me as well.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm so glad that you had that experience, Gabe. You get me thinking about the application process. Yeah. It's, well, it's something we want to have as an opportunity for students to like reflect. But we don't want the application process to be, exclusionary, you know, or to create an elite thing. You know, we really want, as many students as possible, to have this kind of signature experience. And with the strategic plan that's underway, even in our changed environment with its challenges, we're trying to grow that program. So hopefully, you know, extrapolating out a few years, what if a majority of students within a given grade had the opportunity to travel, right? What if every sophomore had the opportunity, and we had something like 80 or 90% of students going on a trip in the course of that year, or at some time in their upper school experience.
Right, like Appleby College. So that's the school that the Round Square trip that I was a part of was hosted at, and at their school, it's actually mandatory for all the students to be involved in some kind of global education program before they graduate, and I thought that was really cool.
Same, right? I think that is so cool, so transformative. I think we're a few steps away from, you know, being where Appleby is, but what an exciting notion! What a neat thing to ultimately have as a goal down the road. You know, to have everyone have that global mindedness, that the empathy that builds, all the various skill sets that grow when you're thinking in terms of other cultural experiences and getting outside of your own perspective and appreciating others.
Right.
It's a long-term goal, but what a goal. Oh.
Right. And even if it's just like hosting an exchange student, I know Sean and I both hosted exchange students.
That's right.
During high school. And that was a really cool experience for me because, well, one, it kept my family on like our best behavior, sort of. Like, everyone was well behaved while Thomas was here. And as well, it was just really fun to have him in the house and get a new perspective and hear all this cool stuff about how they do it in Cairns, Australia, as opposed to what he's been observing here.
Right.
I don't know, Sean,
Yeah, because Marvin, it was cool. I mean, I'll be honest, the first few weeks were tough for, I think, my family because Marvin was still on Germany and Switzerland, like, you know, time schedule. So he would wake up at 4 a.m. every morning and blow dry his hair, which there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. But when I would wake up and go downstairs and say, dude, what are you doing? He'd just be like, oh, I'm just blow drying my hair. Like, you know, it's like no big deal. I'm like, dude, we're all still sleeping. And it was just, you know, obviously I can't control that, but it was awesome having Marvin. I think he'd never seen a Wii before he visited me. And I remember, I think it was his like second week. I had, you know, I think Gabe, you were there, right?
Yeah.
Wii with Marvin. And he was like, I'm going to buy one of these and bring it back to Germany because he was just so kind of taken away by the this thing that we had in America, which didn't seem to be like, I thought it would be more popular in different countries, you know, because I feel it's like a staple of many people's childhoods. And he showed me different things that he had, and he even was nice enough to give me a soccer jersey when he left, which was
really nice.
Yeah, and like I said, I miss him. I still talk to him. I think he's gonna go to University of Miami.
Okay. I was going to ask that if you're either of you are still in touch with those.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I've been texting Thomas. Like literally just the other day, I was texting him about how. So in Australia, the COVID situation isn't so bad. So they just came back from online school, and now they're in person. So,
oh wow! Yeah. Are there any differences in what school looks and feels now that they've come back?
I think for them, it's almost completely back to normal because in Cairns, there were like only 2 cases and I think both fully recovered. So I'm not sure it was, took a big effect on them.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm very glad to hear that you're in touch with them. Would you both do me a favor? Just say hello from me and that Hackley says hello. Truly, it's awesome.
For sure.
In touch. That's what we hope for. You know, that long-lasting connection with the people in other places.
I think Marvin still talks to Coach Paterno too, because they developed quite a bond while Marvin was
Yeah,
here.
he gets workouts from him.
Yeah, no, but it's funny because Marvin will text me sometimes to say, "Get Coach Paterno to email me back," and I'm like, "Am I just a middleman to you?" Like, but Mr.
That's
Lobko,
funny.
if you don't mind us backtracking a little bit, so you said you've gone on trips before. If you could tell us, if you can even decide, what has been your favorite Hackley trip that you've been on, and what is a highlight of it? Or if you can't decide, what's just highlights from multiple trips?
Wow, that's hard. I'll do what I can with that. It's really hard to choose. It's like choosing my favorite English 12 class.
Yeah, red herrings, clue planners. I don't even remember the last one. That one's not in the running, but you know what I mean.
The Hoolanders.
Oh yeah, how could I forget?
It's been a minute since I've been on a trip myself. Since taking on this, this role, I've really wanted other teachers to have that chaperone and leadership experience. But going back, I might say the 2016 trip to Morocco. And Ms. Jean was on that with Miss Uyola. You might remember her, and Mr. Gilly. And that was a really special trip for a number of reasons. I had never been to that continent or Morocco. Morocco was one of the most jaw-droppingly beautiful places, and we did this van caravan loop around the entire country. So we got, the seaside, we got major metropolitan centers in Casablanca. We went into the souks and bazaars in Fez, which is hundreds and hundreds of years old, that old city center. But then Chefchaouen was maybe my favorite. And if you'll indulge me, I actually just happen to have it because it's one of my favorite places. It looks like this.
Oh, okay.
That picture. And Chefchaouen is built into the Rif Mountains. And to get there, you have to take all these crazy up and downhill switchbacks. It feels precarious when you're making your way there, but then you get there, and you guys are Game of Thrones fans, I imagine.
I've seen it.
I watched it.
So it's the metaphor I keep reaching for, or simile, that in the same way that King's Landing, it's this massive castle spire city kind of built into the mountains. Chefchaouen looks like that, and everywhere you go, it's just like staircase. It's like an MC Escher painting, and they paint it this blue every year. And my favorite moment, I think, from it was when we were walking these staircases, and our tour guide took us past an Islamic school, and you could hear school happening inside, and the verses of the Quran being recited at midday, and it was right around the time that Belgium had experienced a terror attack. And we had heard about it on our phones that morning, and one of our students asked the question about Islam and how it gets misrepresented and demonized, for perceived, connections to violence. And there was such a beautiful, moving correction and defense that our guide, who knew the Islamic teacher in the school, that he gave, that Islam is it so fully repudiates any violence, in its true form, and it is like all religions, for peace and understand. It was just such a full-throated, real embodiment and full-throated defense, and you could kind of see all of our students just like breathe that in, just absorb that defense, and we were standing in a place just like this, with this beautiful soft blue resonating and pulsating around us. So it was a really beautiful moment, even though it came out of a Belgian tragedy.
I know what you mean. And one of the reasons why I went a little bit earlier was because you always have that up during English classes, and you'd always have us guess. And I had no idea. Like I think, I don't know, you might remember, I thought it was a COD map at first, but obviously it's not. But I feel like too, it makes it a lot more special place because you like you said, you climbed up. It was kind of not a treacherous journey, but it was a journey on its own and an adventure to get up there. And I feel like, if I don't mind me trying to put words in your mouth, it was more rewarding getting up there.
Yeah, that's aptly said. Yeah, and I think that kind of speaks to what travel can do more generally, right? Like there's a challenge, there's that fear before your plane's wheels leave the ground, there's that sleeplessness the night before. It's a challenge to like get into a different new place. You have to get outside of that comfort zone, right? But the reward as a result of that, the reward of putting your feet in a brand new place is really profound and something that goes to the heart of why we travel.
So, I have a question for you actually, and I'm not 100%, I don't feel, I guess it's 100% necessary to bring this up, but I'm just really curious.
Okay.
So, as a result of the global pandemic that is going on,
Yeah.
how do you think this will affect future trips? And are you guys working on a solution to that right now? I mean, I think obviously you guys are, but like, what is that solution? Can you let us know? Is it still kind of under wraps?
It's less that it's under wraps and more that we're preparing for an array of possibilities. We, much like how the school itself is preparing 3 different scenarios, that global education team is doing something similar. And we hope for a return to travel that's more or less like what we were hoping to do in this year. But we're prepared for making modifications, and we're preparing too for additional kind of postponements. Ideally, we'd like to be able to let run the courses. I'm sorry, the course and the trips that were supposed to happen this year, but it's a little too soon to say. And Hackley, like so many of our peer schools, we take our cues from not only our research but also from the United States Department of State, the CDC. We're a member of this amazing organization called International SOS, which is like the platinum standard for security and safety that companies and schools and all kinds of institutions use. And they give us up to the minute information about and intelligence about what's happening in other countries. So it's going back to when we started our interview, it's not a boring time to be thinking about how to maintain meaningful connection, because travel and it just can't look the way that it did even 6 months ago.
For sure. Sean and I had a question. Well, speaking of Hackley, we were talking and we wanted to know your dream addition to the curriculum, whether it be global education related or not.
What an awesome question. Whew. Yeah, it is indeed. I mean, it's no coincidence that my answer has to do with what we've been talking about. It would be a year-long course that would be team taught, and it would have a couple of different modules. Some of the modules would recur, right? So, there would be some units in, for instance, what does really awesome travel essaying look like? What is really sincere and in-depth, personal, kind of like personal narrative college essay course that we were talking about, right? So maybe a unit in that. And then maybe a unit in videography. How do you take really awesome footage and edit it? Kind of like how both of you are doing for this awesome, video podcast interview series. And then, the course, and let's imagine that every sophomore has the ability to take it as a major, right? Then it would segue into some units that were more topic specific, right? Maybe a history module or focus that had all to do with, let's say, the European theater in World War II, 20th century modern Euro, right? That would turn into, that portion of the course. Maybe there's a literary component. And then, so the course would kind of have these, there would be maybe a Europe version, an African version, a Southeast Asian version. And then in spring break, everyone goes to that place. That'd be my dream addition to the curriculum, something that has a travel component and that allows you to do that deep dive. We're kind of taking the incremental step towards that with the new course that Mr. Klemenko is going to be running. It's called the Global Context course. Is this news to you? Do you know about this?
I don't know.
I had no idea, yeah.
Oh, so
this might be most of our viewers' first time hearing about it.
Okay, so
you're breaking
I'm
the
happy
news.
to tell you that as part of the strategic plan, a whole crew of teachers and administrators got together. And by the way, they surveyed prior years of Hackley seniors, like, what's the most important thing to you? And they were like, travel experiences, big experiences, right? And some of us weren't able to go on those. So as a result of taking in that survey data from students, we were like, well, how do we make this happen maybe? Long story short, this committee hammered together a minor course that is going to head from Hackley down to various sites of interest to the civil rights movement. It's a history-centered course with performing arts as well. Mr. Klemenko is lead teacher. And so the course is going to go on all year. And then spring break, they head to the south, down through Virginia, down through Alabama, and they head to New Orleans. And they'll be setting up in New Orleans for a while, learning more about civil rights in that city, and also just enjoying the insanely rich culture and music of New Orleans. And then they come on back for April and the rest of the year. Isn't that amazing, right? Because
that sounds really cool.
Where was this class when I was like a sophomore? That's ridiculous.
No, I apologize.
No, it's not okay, Mr. Lobko. It's not.
Hop into my DeLorean and go back into. I know what you mean, but we're just so excited because this is the kind of incremental step that can get us where we hopefully can be, with all the students possible going on something like that.
Right.
What if we eventually had a Hackley where there were 4 of those classes running at once, and one went to a domestic location, maybe to study immigration, and they went to the Southwest US. And what if we had another course that, went over to Denmark to study, sustainable energy, and another that, studied Africa, and another that, and so on.
Right.
I could fill this whole interview talking about that, but that is happening. Mr. Clement is another go-to guy for info on that, but it's exciting.
All right.
That's awesome. I would actually, sorry, Gabe, but
yeah, I was just gonna say, no, I just email Mr. Klemenko, I guess, for more information.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would take those courses if I obviously wasn't a senior that's graduating, especially your dream course. That just sounds so interesting. I feel like, there's only so much that sitting in a classroom and, teaching can do. I feel like going to a new location and having this fresh new experience kind of makes the class more engaging. Not saying that, obviously classroom, classes aren't engaging, but I feel like it'd be even so much so. But I have another question for you, Mr. Lobko. Would you be willing to incorporate the Octcast podcast into your curriculum?
Yes, I would.
Wait, really? I didn't think we'd get this. Gabe, I didn't think we'd get this far.
I mean, subject to peer review and.
Oh, okay. Never mind that. I want only good thoughts. I don't want any criticism.
Of course.
But thank you. At least you're thinking about us. I appreciate that, Mr. Lobko. But Gabe and I actually had a really burning question for you.
Okay.
How did you get your tattoos? And is there a story behind them?
Yeah. So I only have the one. I don't know if the rumor mill has given me more, but I've just got the one here, and it's unfortunately, I don't have the kind of shirt that allows me to show it, but I'll describe it. It's a pair of astronauts, and they're on the moon, and behind them, the Earth is coming up. Yeah. And you can kind of see the shadows of their feet. So it's 2 astronauts. But when you first look at it, that's what you probably see. But if you squint at it, it's almost like a kind of magic eye. You can kind of see something else, and you can see the outline of like a skull, right? Because it's like the Earth coming up, and then the visors of the astronauts form the like eye holes. It's a really cool like visual illusion. Why would I get something like that? So I was the last person in my family to get tattooed, actually. My dad was the first. He was in the Army, and one day in Vietnam, he woke up with the Pink Panther cartoon character just on his arm, and he kept it. And then no one got a tattoo for a long time. I think my brother was next, and then my mom, and then my sister, who's younger than me, and then me. So my mom's tattoos and my sister's and mine, they have to do with my brother. It's in memory of him. So when he passed away, they found the right things to commemorate him. My sister has, a little signature of his, and my mom has others. So this image for me has that kind of sweet spot of kind of being evocative of like the sadness, the memento mori, the skull that you can kind of see. But also, I always wanted to be an astronaut. I always wanted to be an astronaut when I was growing up. And my brother always wanted to be a Navy SEAL, always wanted. And he was just jacked and just ripped. It would be like, Coach Lisa, Coach Paterno, Coach John, like he would be like third in that trio, like just that level of jack. So the astronauts kind of spoke to like my ambition, but also like John's, this kind of willingness to shoot big, to aim big. A lot of astronauts are Navy veterans. I don't know if you know that, like a lot of astronauts are like fighter jet pilots who just keep going, and then they pilot space shuttles and Apollo capsules. And I loved that the tattoo has the two of us together, like one's John and one's me. So that's my tattoo. I've got plans for another one. Maybe that's another story from Dante's Inferno. But of course it would. So that's my tattoo origin story.
Wow, that was awesome.
That's sick, dude. Honestly, I would have never guessed that. That's super cool. In all honesty, only way to describe it for me, at least.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought long and hard about it. It's kind of a rule that's worked for me in my life about tattoos. Like, be really sure about it, and have a good reason, and have it speak to someone who you miss or love.
I mean, I was planning when I get older to get like a four-leaf clover, but now I feel silly hearing that. So
it's so funny though. I was having a similar thought because I was looking at your jacket and I was like, maybe he'll get a four-leaf clover somewhere. Maybe you could just get those all over your body, just tattoo.
Oh no, you don't understand. I'm
like
gonna
Michael Phelps cupping or something, just clover.
It'd be awesome, actually. I dyed my skin green, so I just have the suit always on me. That would be actually awesome. I should do that. You're right.
I did not say that you should do that.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta get like the businessman. So I can't have like forearms be tatted up or like neck. So
Right.
It's just gonna be like like torso and I would say like up to there and up. But still,
Right.
it's a good idea. So if you don't mind, Gabe, do you want to ask about the barefoot?
Yes. So during our summer class, I learned that you are into barefoot running. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We just wanted to ask, what's that about? Like,
it's a great question. And I love how you word it. I read a book, and the book is called Born to Run. It made a big splash a couple years ago, and I think it restarted or started this trend in barefoot running. It followed a South American, if memory serves, tribe that could run. The members of this tribe could run for hundreds of miles without anything resembling a sneaker, and they've done this for hundreds of years, maybe more. They would just have like a very, very thin piece of like animal hide, you know, a little bit of leather. And so this got the author of the book thinking, and he got rid of sneakers. Now he needed to, because, you know, when he tried to run with regular running shoes, it was still producing unpleasant, all kinds of, you know, joint pain and muscle pain. But then he got rid of the sneakers and just ran barefoot, and it went away. And then he was able to keep running. And I was like, what's that about? So I tried it, even though I didn't have any chronic pain. And I just really started to love it, like for reasons that were surprising to me. Now I was living in Manhattan at the time, but I just did it anyway. So I would run. I was teaching in a school on the Upper East Side for the time being, and at the end of the school day, I would toss on my backpack and run barefoot from there to 157th Street, a little bit through Central Park and through Spanish Harlem, and was getting all kinds of like that, like Dios mío, sin zapato. I'm like, sin zapato. And the reason I liked it was that it slowed me down. It made me pay more attention to my environment. I had to like scan for glass. It felt different. It felt like I was like connected in a different way to my environment. If that's believable. I don't do it anymore. But I'm glad that I did it. And if ever I really need to shake it up, my running practice, I know that that's in my tool belt.
That's awesome.
That's incredible. I might just do that now. Granted, I already get weird looks in the street because I do hill sprints. And people just go like, I mean, sometimes I wear the bandana too, and that even gets more, you know, weird looks. But
do you recommend it for, like, Sean and I both do cardio for exercise since quarantine hasn't allowed us many other opportunities to lift. So
I think I would recommend it with a caveat, you know, like if you run and enjoy running, you know, with regular running sneakers or, you know, cross trainers, like keep that up. If sometimes you experience some, you know, arch pain or foot pain, give it a try. I will say that, like, you'll feel aches in your leg muscles for the first couple of days that you think will kill you. It's like, oh my, I didn't know my calves could ache in quite this way. That will go away, and you'll also build up calluses. I can't blanket endorse it, but if you're curious, do it safely and under a doctor's supervision or something.
That's awesome though, too. I feel like it keeps you more grounded, like literally, I guess, to nature and the environment as well, too.
Yeah, it has. Yeah. When I moved to the Bronx, I didn't keep going with the barefoot running the way I did. But what you're saying about connection, like I still have that. When I go running on the Hackley Allison trails, the cross-country trails up here, I love those trails so much. Like I always do the red one. And I always think about what Mr. Karp said, because he helped design those trails. I don't know if you know, like he consulted with the landscape architects who created them. And the architects said, so any input for us? And Karp was just like, make it so challenging that it's so technical that like there's almost no recovery time. And I'm like, geez, Karps. And it's true. It's always kind of like up and then hairpin turn and around. So it's always like really challenging, but I'll share this. I just had a misgiving about like whether or not I should share this. There's a particular part of the trail where I always stop. And I stop to just look around and listen to stuff and just like slow my breath and just kind of be. You can find this spot because there's a particular pile of rocks that, and it's not just me who does this, but people who use the trail, and they're strangers to me, I guess, because they're friends of Hackley who use it, but they make sure that there's always this pile of rocks in a pyramid, and it's about as tall as we are, you know. It's a cairn, and I always at that. If you're going on the red trail, it's always to the left, and I always stop there, and I just like, I don't know, take it in and feel grateful to have that, you know, green space, especially these days.
I hope sharing that on our podcast doesn't have too many people invading your private nature space.
No, that's kind of why I paused, but then I thought to myself, like, in the quick turning of the gears, like, no, I'd like to share that. I'd like to share that, you know, like, our trails are for as many as who want to use them, and who knows, like, maybe people will help out put those little rocks tower, because sometimes the wind knocks it down, you know. We got to keep that tower built.
Right.
It's true. We're getting a lot more people mobbing the red trail now, but you know, that's good too. Encouraging people to run on the trails is just, I think it's good for the body and the soul.
Yeah, well said.
Speaking of, so have you been running more during quarantine?
Have I been running more?
Yeah.
Yeah, every day. I don't know when I last had a rest day. Yeah, it's like for mental health, and it's for, you know, physical health too. Like you said, body and mind, body and soul.
Yeah, that's what you know, Lisa Paterno Flanagan, we had him on, Connor too. You know, working out is kind of just like an outlet in a way. And so, you know, everyone's like, oh, you're just, you know, straining those, you know, huge bis, tries, you know, and all that. But it really does work the mind too. It gives you time to reflect, and I guess it's a form of meditation in a way.
Yeah, hard agree.
But have you been finding more time for, I mean, obviously you have online classes, but have you been finding more time for different things in quarantine? Have you picked up any more hobbies, or has online classes kind of been a lot more time consuming?
Yeah, so it's funny, like, online classes do, in a somewhat paradoxical way, or just being a teacher, being a colleague, being, you know, a member of lots of different committees and things, does seem to take up surprising amounts of time, you know. Like, when you're in person, it turns out, when you're able to kind of like knock through things on your to-do list in a kind of faster way. So yeah, it's kind of a curious relationship that I have with time these days. Certainly May is a really full month because of the theory essay processing that comes in. You know, I take in 42 8 to 10 page essays, which are like so fascinating, but they take so much time. And so, you know, I've been really diving into those. I wouldn't say new hobbies, to kind of, at the end of the day, decompress from all that stuff, but favorite hobbies. So I don't know if you can see, maybe I'll turn it around. My writing is...
We have the virtual
background. Yeah, we still have
virtual background. Would this be interesting? Should I even bother?
Yeah, go for it.
It'd be awesome.
So yeah, what you see here are all my poems that I've recently written. And so I've been not dedicating myself, because it's not as though I've been undedicated to it, but just putting in more quality time, writing poems about, well, lots of different things. And I've been submitting them, just sending them off to this and that journal, and sending off my poetry manuscript as well. So that's been getting a lot of my time, and that's been keeping me sane as well. Back to Morocco.
Because I remember seeing on the, I think it was the Hackley Alumni Instagram account, which everyone watching should follow. My mom runs that one. But
Right.
I remember I saw there was I think it was a video of your poem, or you reading a poem in front of the Hackley Hilltop, and it was awesome to see that, you know, people were actually going back to visit it and not just, you know, staying away. And it was a very nice poem that you read. Thanks
for saying. Yeah, I was happy to help out with that. it's really neat that we've got so many of those various, social media platforms, keep alums, keep others in the community plugged in with what's going on the Hilltop.
Speaking of social media platforms, Sean and I had some, less deep questions, but thoughts on TikTok.
Do you have a TikTok?
Yeah.
I don't have a TikTok.
Good.
He can stay in the call.
Yeah, exactly. We're not putting you in a breakout room. We had this conversation with Connor, and I couldn't pry an answer out of him. He said that he hasn't had it and he's been resisting it for so long. There's no point in giving up now. But I'm a big supporter of the TikTok bad movement.
Yeah. Do you have?
Okay. Is that?
Are you asking me to join your movement? Is that? What?
Yeah, hell yeah.
I'm not even a part. I'm not a part. I don't endorse that movement. I don't really care that much. I was just asking for your opinion.
I think my stance on TikTok, which I'm determining right now live, is sort of a neutral wait and see. I think that there's something cool about the short, clipped, well-designed, intentional, humorous video. Like our cultures, say what you will about it, always changing in interesting ways. And so I think like a smart, well-made TikTok can do something akin to what a smart, popular viral meme can do, or before that, what a smart, subversive cartoon clip from like South Park might do. Like there are just like these neat incremental ways that tech provides platforms for creativity. That's a pretty optimistic read, I guess. But I'm neutral beyond that.
I agree with you in the sense that there are obviously gems. There's gems everywhere, right? But the reason I think TikTok very bad, is because it's like 1 in like 50 are gems, and the other ones are just bad. It's the only way I can describe them. Bad. I'm at a loss of words here. My vocabulary, cap is not on. But there's just something. You're right. There is something nice about seeing a good funny meme. Like jokey meme once in a while, but it's very, I would say, it's very diluted. The whole I guess mixture is very diluted, with there being good ones and bad ones, with majority being bad ones, in my humble, honest opinion, and correct opinion, if I may add that.
Yeah, diluted. Your vocab's okay. You don't have to reach for the double plus for good. Diluted, that makes sense. I'll keep that.
Sorry. And a similar idea, thoughts on just meme culture in general, and do you have like a favorite meme template?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I like the 3 that come to mind. These are probably too classic, but the Captain Jean-Luc Picard, who like can't believe what he's seeing. Captain Picard.
I mean, like the
Blanca, who's just kind of like, tell me more about that. Okay. And distracted boyfriend. It's just so versatile. It's so versatile.
The Blanca one, it goes far back. That's when I was like 7. That's really deep, man. You're going far back in meme culture. I thought you were gonna pull out the Let's Eat Grandma and Let's Eat Grandma with the Grandma Saves Lives.
Yeah, sure. Man, that's been on a poster since AOL.com. Yeah.
Wow. I want to say a fan favorite of I think most people in the Clue Plan group was
Is that right?
5 things. No, it's 5 things every child needs to hear. Like, I love you, you're great, the workers' revolution is inevitable. That's a great one.
I'll offer this up just for enthusiasts of the podcast. A couple of years ago now, I had Clemenco in the room, and I pointed to that, and I was like, should I take that down before Parents' Day? And he was like, leave it up. And I was like, okay, Clemenko tells me to leave it up. I'm leaving it up. The workers' revolution, every child needs to hear it.
It makes me giggle every time I hear it. I love that one so much. I remember doing, I think it was our first comp. I was getting a little, distracted, and I was trying to look for ideas. And I remember I looked up, and that's all I saw. And I could not focus on my comp for like 5 minutes because I was like, that's just hysterical. Because I didn't expect to find that in your room because that was right next to the 7 nice places to sit and read a book in Central Park. And so I'm like, oh, that's really nice and wholesome. And then just the workers' revolution is inevitable. I was like, oh my god.
It's a good memory, and wow, you were perceptive. You were absorbing it all. All right.
And I probably shouldn't have been. I was taking a comp, but you know what I mean. But if you don't mind us switching gears a little bit. So me and Gabe usually talk about college and quarantine. We've covered quarantine, but we like to talk about college with teachers and people that have actually gone to college. So
as opposed to those who haven't.
Well, yeah, we had Connor on.
On the show, and he couldn't really speak on.
Yeah, so I personally tried to guilt him because he didn't go to college and he was ruining some of my material, but I don't think he seemed too mad about it or sad. But so I have no idea where you went to college, so if you don't mind shedding some light in that. I asked that in a weird way, but.
No, I went to Vassar College. By the way, I only drink out of this mug on special occasions. So, cheers.
Oh, exactly. My heart is all warm now.
It's true. So yeah, I went to Vassar. That's in Poughkeepsie. It's about an hour away. It's small, ish, 2,400, give or take, students, and it's, oh my god, I could go on and on about it, but I was really fortunate. Really lucky to study there, and I studied English there, along with religion and everything else I could. So it's a fantastic, fantastic experience.
That's awesome. Did you know you wanted to study English prior to college?
No. So there's a little story that goes with that. So I alluded to my interest in astronautics and wanting to be in NASA to be an astronaut. So I applied in high school, actually the US Naval Academy. I wanted to go be a naval officer and, fly FA-18 Hornets and F-14s and.
That's awesome.
And so on. And then I wanted to be the first person on Mars, that was my whole high school dream. And to get into the service academies, there's West Point, the military academy for Army, and the rest. You need a congressional, a congressperson to endorse you.
Right.
And so I actually got that from Representative Walsh in upstate New York, but my grades in math and science weren't totally up to snuff. The rest of my grades were good, and that was okay. But these service academies are, as stands to reason, not just like leadership academies, but they're heavy on science, they're heavy on engineering. And so basically the service academy and some other members of the service came to me and said, why don't you reapply in a year, go to school somewhere, take some science, take some math, reapply. And I said, okay, that sounds good. And of the places I got into, Vassar was just the most attractive to me. It seemed like it had the best academics, and I just had that sense of connection when I visited every time. And so I went there, took some math, took a bunch of sciences. The sciences were great. Math didn't go so well.
I feel that.
It didn't go so well for me. And at the same time as my math was like, my English love, which was always high, like I was always really just in love with creative writing and English. I can tell you more about that if you want. But I realized like, oh, I don't want to reapply for the Naval Academy. I want to stay exactly where I am. I want to take as many English classes as possible. Ooh, and I think that professor is the coolest person. I'm going to take every Hebrew studies class I can. I'm going to take every anthropology course, so on. I just felt like I was at home, and I didn't even wind up reapplying for the Naval Academy.
That's awesome. Finding a place, unintentionally finding a place that's just awesome. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
I think my friends, I think one of my good friends applied to Vassar, but he didn't go. But he was telling me it's a good school.
So is it fair to say that you like really discovered yourself at Vassar?
Yeah, I'd say that there was discovery and confirmation of certain parts of myself, So, I discovered, that teaching side of myself, and there are some anecdotes for that, but I always knew that, I just got a lot out of creating stories, writing poems. I just got a lot out of reading novels and writing essays about them. I was, should I tell you this? I'll tell you this. So I lived in Buffalo for a time, and my school district in Buffalo, by the way, I'm a public school kid all the way through, nothing but public schools. And the Buffalo school system had a kind of like advanced or intermediate course for certain subjects. And so I was enrolled in English advanced or English, I can't remember what they called it. And then I moved at the start of my high school years to central New York, to the Syracuse area. And they were like, we don't have this. Can we just put you in the next grade for English? And I did. My parents were like, yeah, put them in. So actually, in the 8th grade, they didn't have, because it was in 8th grade that this happened. So I would finish my math, I would finish my science for the day, and then they would put me along with one other 8th grader. They'd put us on our own bus to go over to the high school to take English. She was taking, 9th grade English and French. So we were just 8th graders with these high schoolers above us. It was scary times, but all throughout my high school, I was one grade up in English and Spanish too, actually.
So did it always just, do you feel English kind of came natural to you, or it kind of came natural and you were passionate about it? So it's just that kind of
it kind of fed, because it seemed to be something I enjoyed and was good at. It just kind of became a symbiotic, I guess, kind of cycle. But there was one year that I just really struggled. It was my junior year. My teacher, I thought had it out for me, but in retrospect, I was just not giving good effort. It was a tough year. I didn't like the material. We were doing a lot of Middle English and, just things that didn't speak to me. Chaucer, which I wound up teaching years later in an earlier version of the 10th grade. So I wouldn't say that it was always something that came easy, but it was something that I don't know, just felt alive when I was reading it or studying it or sharing it.
It's awesome. It really is, honestly. I'm saying awesome a lot, but that's because that's one of my my go-to words. It really is. It really is awesome. Not really is my go-to word.
I was going to ask if that was your podcast catchphrase, or if that's been determined.
Oh, actually, I mean, I feel like my main podcast gimmick is just looking ridiculous. I've got a red bandana on, and I have quite possibly the most stylish, tuxedo. I was planning on wearing this to prom, if we had prom, but then I was gonna say my poor prom date. Imagine the pictures, it just would not be good. But
I think the podcast slogan was, so Sean and I are big fans of the mesothelioma like meme, like the whole culture around those
If
commercials.
you or a loved one has, mesothelioma, they may be entitled to financial compensation. Call
Right.
1-800-LAW USA. And
That one.
yeah,
So I think it's call, or what is it? Call 1-800-LAW-OCK.
OCK.
That's ours right now.
Do you know what Aki is,
Terrible.
Mr.
It's
Lobko?
terrible.
I can't say for sure. I can't.
Okay, sorry about that. I just lost power.
That's okay.
That's not good.
Yeah, we were just, I think,
Wrapping it up.
because in late night TV terms, it's the wee hours. We've been chatting for a while, right?
Right.
It's been a pleasure to be on your show, and I can't wait to see how it all comes together. Congrats on your impeccable hosting skills, and
Thank you.
it was a pleasure to be a guest.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
for
Lobko.
talking
This
with
is a
us.
blast. This is awesome. Very insightful.
Thank you both.
Okay.